Welcome everyone, and ni hao to you all. I'm Deborah Resnick. My name in Mandarin is Mei Fu, and I'm known to the children and staff at Emma Kids as Miss B. I hold AMS Montessori certification and have worked in private and public schools, both Montessori and non-Montessori, for over 40 years. In China, I have been an ambassadorist for Montessori, and I've been lecturing and demonstrating materials in 3 Chinese cities. Education, as a noun and a verb, is currently stirring much political and social debate in the United States. We're asking ourselves, who are our students? Does our current curriculum meet their need? Who are their teachers? How are we training them? These are fundamental questions. But the seminar is asking a more penetrating question about education. How is education conveying or promoting specific values in a country's culture? Many far wiser people than I are debating this question. My plan for this portion of the seminar is to address the question through the life and works of Dr. Maria Montessori. Her ability seemed to be to prepare them, in fact, to be competent, in fact, in their ability to grow and to thrive in the world around them. Most educational systems share Dr. Montessori's goals, but the values they promote have changed dramatically. The first value Dr. Montessori championed was to teach the whole child, to observe and guide his mental, physical, emotional, and social growth. Today's U.S. educational system, kindergarten to secondary school, we are less focused on our children's social adjustments. We assume, perhaps incorrectly, that our children have successfully been socialized by attendance in groups or daycare centers, sometimes as early as 8 weeks of age. What has changed this? More and more women in the workforce, some through choice and some through economic necessity. It is believed that these initial experiences encourage children to work together, to be cooperative and not competitive. I have observed conventional Montessori kindergartens and non-conventional kindergartens in the U.S. and have found this to be generally true. In Chinese schools, I have not been led to this conclusion. I have seen many instances in which competition is the rule of the day. Is it only intellectual? No, unfortunately, from what I have seen, and please remember, I do not speak Mandarin. I can only tell from the children's behavior. I think it's also emotional. I have observed bullying, ostracizing, teasing, isolation, and shunning of individuals or groups of children. Yes, I have seen this behavior in American schools as well. Dr. Montessori's second value involved the child's relationship to his or her environment. She was very concerned that the structure of the environment was critical, not the structure of the child. She was very discouraged by the schools in her era in which children were forced to sit still for hours on end. She believed a child should be free to move about a classroom, to choose his or her work, to put his or her work at a specific desk or on a rug, and to complete the work without interference, replace the work as it should be on a shelf, and choose the next activity. This has continued in Montessori and non-Montessori schools in the United States. We see this from the earliest age with our Montessori children through conventional and non-conventional high school. Space and class size, however, are critical here. Many of the classrooms in which I have been an observer in China are very, very crowded. It would be very difficult to provide space for children to interact, to flow freely from one area to another, or to do very much except remain in their seats. I have also watched them move chairs into circles or smaller groups. Again, they are still sitting when they are completing this activity. A third value to Dr. Montessori was that learning was active, not passive, and that for early childhood, children learn best through their 5 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Many of Dr. Montessori's materials, as you probably remember, are self-correcting, and they encourage physical as well as intellectual activity. I'm currently working in a non-Montessori environment, and the only Montessori materials, formal materials in my environment are, and I have found this very, very interesting, the dressing frames. So even with our children, we are beginning with one of Dr. Montessori's basic categories, and that of practical life. When I observed the demonstration by our head teacher, who is not Montessori trained, I was very, very amused, because like many teachers, but not like Dr. Montessori's trained teachers, we use too many words when we present materials, new materials, to our children. What I miss most, I must tell you, of the Montessori materials, and this has to do with active learning and structure, I miss the math materials. Dr. Montessori's math materials were not only structured individually, they were sequential. There was a regular order in which you taught the names of numbers, in which you taught the value of numbers, in which you then moved on to place value and counting. I don't have these materials currently, and I miss them. I want to focus today not on how the Montessori preschool works, but how it has incorporated many of U.S. values. And I want to talk about how these values have extended into our elementary Montessori education program. Please remember, I have no specific training in these areas. I am not and do not plan to take training in elementary education, so I am an observer and a reporter, just as you would be in this classroom. My introduction to Montessori elementary education was through our own son. He entered a Montessori classroom at age 3. His classroom contained both boys and girls, although I know in some areas Montessori classrooms are divided, girls in one area and boys in another. He entered at age 3 and he left at age 8. During those 5 years, he shared not only hours and hours of school togetherness, but many, many out-of-school hours as well. He commuted to school in a car. He commuted both with me and with other parents. He commuted to school trips on a bus with me and with other parents. He visited classmates in their homes. They visited him in his home. The group went many places together in our community. Families often joined in these activities, and certainly in the celebrations and holidays that were in our area. The social interactions were always congenial. The group was small, less than 15 students. And if there was teasing, and there must have been, these were, after all, young children, it didn't seem malicious. The children could be rowdy, but they were not destructive, and never, as I remember, rude or thoughtless. Intellectually, the group progressed well. None had problems adjusting to conventional fourth grade academic standards or environments. That is the current progress in our community from Montessori preschool to Montessori elementary education. The age at which they enter elementary school is generally 8 to 9, and it is for our students grade 4. They will continue then in lower elementary until they go into upper elementary, junior high school, and high school. There are programs which have been developed by the American Montessori Society in these areas, in these advanced areas of schooling for private and public school Montessori. In 1900, the orthogenic school with teachers trained by Dr. Montessori opened for students who were labeled in those days mentally disabled. In 1907, Dr. Montessori opened the Casa dei Bambini, the children's house, in a depressed area of Rome. If you asked Dr. Montessori what her goals were for her children in these schools, she said that her goal would have been to improve their overall physical health. She was further interested in their emotional, social, and intellectual, and for her, moral lives. The social interactions among these children and with their families, the group was small, by the way. There were less than 15 children. If there was teasing, it didn't seem malicious. They could be rowdy, but they were not destructive, and never, as I remember, were they rude or thoughtless. Intellectually, the group progressed well. None had problems, at least that I'm aware of, in adjusting when they moved to conventional fourth grade from their regular Montessori preschool. The academic standards did not seem to distress them. They were able to meet whatever was required or requested of them, and they were able to adopt to, as far as was necessary, the schedule of the day. Traditionally, Montessori schools don't have an introductory work circle or an introductory time in the morning. At one point, it was announcements from the principal and the teachers. This is not common in a Montessori school. What a Montessori school does have regularly, ideally, is a 3-hour work period. So the child enters in the morning, prepares himself for a work period on his or her own, and gets started without anyone's encouragement or direction. The children who went into conventional fourth grade classes did not have that experience. They came in the morning and put their things away in their locker or their cubby, as they had in a Montessori school, and then generally they joined the group for some sort of group discussion, group song, group activity, a kind of, here's what we're going to do today, and here's how we're going to do it. This was different for most children, but they did adapt. The other thing they needed to adapt themselves to was a schedule. They very seldom got a 3-hour uninterrupted work period. There were frequent interruptions. There were special teachers who came in to give foreign language instruction. There were special teachers who came in to do art projects. There might have been children who were excused to do special tutoring during a 3-hour period. Also, their outdoor time was different. In many Montessori schools, ideally, it is before or after a meal. That is not always the case in a larger fourth grade class. It has to be arranged around those work, study, and work-play periods of the others in the school. The world in which our son has grown up has vanished. Vanished. Children today are growing up in a world beyond anything he or we could possibly imagine. Because knowledge and the means through which we are receiving it has changed beyond anything Dr. Montessori could have imagined. Our lives, our world, and its problems is brought into our homes, schools, and offices 24/7. We are never away from a news source. We are never away from more information, more questions, more comments, more need to listen and to learn. We have not only seen changes in the way we perceive the world around us, but we have seen these changes reflected in our American educational system. First, we have changed our curriculum. Some changes, I believe, were made to meet the needs of the marketplace. In my previous state, upper elementary students were tested on keyboarding, a skill which Dr. Montessori could not have even imagined. We are increasing our focus on standards. For example, the development of the program Common Core, with up-to-date curriculum from kindergarten through high school, was adopted by 36 states. Why was Common Core needed? Because our population is mobile. Military families travel around the world and around our country as they go from duty station to duty station. Our globally employed family members travel with their children from state to state or country to country. It became necessary to try to bring everyone up to a certain level of competence. Has this been a success? Not altogether. There are school systems which claim that Common Core is expensive in terms of time and resources, and they have neither available to make this program work. We're also recognizing that one of our principal goals, that is preparing students for independent living in adulthood, isn't being met. Too many of our students either fail to complete high school, which has a demonstrative effect on their earning lifetime, or they drop out before getting the necessary tools to have a successful adulthood. So, if one of the values of our educational system is to prepare a student to be independent and fully functioning as an adult, our schools need to do better. Have we made much progress in this area? Yes and no. Yes, we have encouraged many of our students to attend trade schools, to prepare themselves for a lifetime of employment, to become responsible and productive adults. We have also tried to enrich their beyond high school years so that we have created a junior college system which offers young people an additional 2 years beyond a high school diploma, and again attempts to help them focus on a given area of employment and a potential lifetime career. I know nothing about Chinese young people of a high school age. I know that competition for entry to college in China is highly competitive. I don't know what happens to children who do not succeed. I don't know whether they fall through the cracks or whether they are eligible for additional training, either in a vocation or in a private profession. I do know, however, that it is critical to your society as well as to ours that these children not fall through the cracks, that they become self-supporting and independent. And what, may you ask, does any of this have to do with the values in today's U.S. Montessori elementary school programs? Stay tuned. Here are my recent experiences in 2 classrooms that I recently visited in Northern Virginia in Montessori elementary education areas. In both classes, I was impressed by the size of the children. They are healthy, they are well nourished, and they are active. One school was private, one school was public. In both schools, I saw sophisticated language materials, advanced mathematical apparatus, and a collection of mineral specimens in one school found on the school grounds. I saw 3-dimensional student-created maps. One student built a large multicolored globe. All of the artwork displayed, both in the classrooms and in the halls, was individual. There were none of the preschool artwork projects that I call cookie cutter, where every single one of the projects looks the same and the only difference is the name on the bottom of the page. What most impressed me in both schools was the level of concentration and intensity displayed by both the students and the teachers, underscoring Dr. Montessori's value that learning is active, not passive. Students seemed self-confident and focused. Often, they were willing to interrupt their work to explain to visitors what they were doing, but they quickly resumed their focus on their task at hand. In one classroom, 2 young girls gave visitors a concise, well-rehearsed tour of the classroom academic work, pointing out to us special artwork projects which related to, again, the holidays that we celebrate every year, family celebrations which were critical, or to things the students were studying. Among them, choose student interest in genealogy, ancestry. Where did their families come from? What could they learn from talking with their older relatives about their histories? Several final comments about Montessori and U.S. educational values before we take a break. Day to day, life in our world is more complex than ever. Many of us live with endless stress and worry because the rate of change has become faster and faster, and the tools we need to master and control our lives have become more and more complex. We no longer believe this is only true for us, that is, the adults of our population. We recognize that this is true also for our children. Our schools need to value more than just the facts. Schools need to encourage more discovery and exploration. Our schools need to nurture independent thinking. Students committed to recognizing problems and working toward solving them. I believe that children receiving a Montessori education are equipped to and can meet these challenges. They are many, and many of them relate to the devices which I watch children carefully carry in their pockets or their packs. And those devices bring them the world around them from social media, from news outlets, and from sources which we as parents have never, ever contemplated. These are the forces which are acting upon our students, upon our schools, and upon their development. It is critical that you and I recognize them, and that is what we will speak about in the second half of our presentation. Thanks. It's time to take a break.